everyone, my name is Erin and I am an adult librarian with the White Oak Library District, and today I'm going to show you this pretty simple image transfer craft. Wanted to show you this craft around this time of year in case you were inspired and you wanted to make something for your loved ones during the holidays. So, end result that we're kind of looking for is something like this. The example that we're going to be doing today is this just plain simple block of wood. If you want to end up with something like this, do the exact same thing that we're going to do today. Just stain your wood beforehand and let it sit for a few days. So again, this is what we're going for, and then this is how you do it. So the supplies you need are Mod Podge, a brush that you're going to apply the Mod Podge with. I'm using a roller, but really you just need something to flatten your image with. So you can use like a popsicle stick, your hands. I'm using a roller, it's really just to get the air bubbles out. Eventually we're going to be using water. I've got scissors to cut my image out, and then my image is a regular image printed out on a laser printer, just on photocopier paper. And then last but not least, I just have my block of wood. So, to start, my block of wood was just purchased at a local hobby store. It's nothing fancy. To get going, I just sanded it down a little bit just to try to prevent any splinters for when I'm doing what I'm about to be doing. I'm going to take my image, and I will just point out that if you are going to be using words like I am, just make sure that you mirror your image or you reverse it. This is something that you can do on most like word processing programs, I think, on your computer. I did this on Microsoft Word. You can do it in Paint. You can do it like a couple other applications. If you have questions, call your local library. All right, so I'm just gonna cut out my image. I'm gonna try to get it as close to the ink as possible. Okay. And then once that's all cut out, I am just going to take my Mod Podge and I'm going to apply a layer of it to the whole picture. And just to point out, the Mod Podge that I'm using isn't anything fancy. It's just their matte version. I've used their glossy version before. This craft has been so popular that I think they actually have like an image transfer version, but I'm just using just a regular old version. All right, so once it's all covered, I'm just gonna put it on my piece of wood. And I'm gonna take my roller and I'm just gonna flatten it out. And what I'm doing is I'm just trying to get rid of like all the air bubbles, make sure it's firmly applied. Okay, and that's really it for step number one. Now, if you were doing this at home, you're gonna wanna let this sit for like 24 hours, at least let it sit overnight. That way it really just adheres together. Because I knew I was going to be doing this, I prepped another one a day or so ago. So I'm gonna grab that one, but again, for you at home, let this sit 24 hours. Okay, so it's been 24 hours. You've let your Mod Podge sit and adhere fully. What you're gonna do next is you're going to just take regular cleaning cloth, get it wet with water. And you're just gonna go ahead and just dab along the paper. You can see the paper become wet and you can see the ink start to show through. So now what we're going to do is I'm just gonna rub the paper away. And what this does is it takes the paper away, it leaves the ink behind. I will say that during this, it's usually like an imperfect process. I've never gotten it so that some of the ink doesn't rub away. Even in the completed example that I showed earlier, I can see little bits of the ink that I rubbed off, but you know, it's a homemade gift, it's not perfect. So I'm just gonna start rubbing the paper away. Okay, I can tell there's another layer that wants to come off there, but I'm gonna let it dry for a minute and then I'm gonna come back and just repeat this process. You can do like the same thing instead of just like doing this with your hands. You can do the same thing with the cleaning cloth instead. There's really no difference. I find that doing it with my hands instead of the cloth, it tends to be a little more delicate, so I take off a little less ink doing it with my hands, but doing it with the cloth definitely prevents more splinters. So just keep that in mind. I'm gonna wait a minute or two and then I'll keep doing this. Okay. I think that looks pretty good. I have a couple of spots where I see like maybe the ink is starting to come up, and I've got this one spot up here where I see like the paper doesn't really want to come off, and that happens sometimes. So I'm gonna let it fully dry, and once it fully dries, I'm gonna apply one last layer of Mod Podge to it just to seal it, and that'll be it. I know I said that this looks pretty good, and I am picky at this, so I am gonna stop and let it fully dry. Okay, so I think that took a couple tries to get all the paper off, which is normal. So what you want to do is you're going to want to wipe off the paper, let it sit to make sure the paper's really gone, and then do that a couple times. Like I said, I can see on the W where the ink started to come off a little bit, and that's normal. It just happens with the rubbing. But I'm going to give this a minute to dry, and then we'll seal it with the Mod Podge and we'll be done. Okay, so once you're ready to finish up and you're satisfied that the paper is gone and you're happy with how it looks, you're just gonna add one final layer of Mod Podge to it so that it's, you know, it's sealed. That's what Mod Podge, that's one of the things that Mod Podge does, it's a sealer. So we're just gonna take our Mod Podge and we're gonna add a coat to it. And this time, instead of just coating the picture, we're just gonna add a coat to the full layer of the wooden plaque. Okay, and that's done. The Mod Podge will usually dry, I think it takes like 15 to 20 minutes for a single coat to dry, and that's just to like dry. It won't like be sealed again for a while. So once you apply that last layer of Mod Podge, that's it, let it dry, and then you've finished your craft. So that's it. Thank you for watching, and I hope you create some art. Thanks.